This is it. This is the beginning of my crazy adventure around the world. After receiving my admission letter to study art therapy at the University of Montpellier, bought my plane ticket, everything went downhill. I couldn't get my biometrics, and given the time I had left, I knew I wouldn't get my visa on time. On the 5th of June, I decided to quit that idea. I had a phone call with my dad, a wise owl, who told me, "You know, Amy, it's not Canada or nothing. You are full of potential, and you're really capable of achieving anything." I was feeling low because I saw it as a failure, a loss. However, my dad was sure I would bounce back, and he was right. My vision widened. The next day, I sent him a message to tell him that I wanted to go on a trip around the world with my instruments, to busk, to do humanitarian work, to learn art therapy another way than at university, and above all, to live a great adventure, perhaps the greatest adventure of my life. I was ultimately more excited to take this journey than to study art therapy in a Canadian university. I filled the notice to move on the 4th of August, which gave me 2 months to leave my flat. So I had 61 days to get rid of everything I owned, prepare a setup to play in the street with a keyboard, a looper, and a guitar, and return my dear flat. The flat, from 5,472 objects to a minimalist life. We know it, we have too much, really too much. And when we decide that all the objects in our life should fit in 60 square centimeters, we are really forced to face this reality. I saw electronic items, summer, winter items, gadgets, art supplies, drawings, things found in the street, macrame creations, my English teaching materials, my makeup, a lot of things, and of course, mountains of clothes accumulated over the years. I ended up selling bags of clothes, giving away the remaining piles of things, until I no longer had 5,472 items, but, 144? My cool homeless life. Once without a flat, I lived at Florian and Charlene's place, who left me their great flat in a fancy neighborhood. Then I migrated to Montpellier Central Square, Place de la Comédie, in a music studio run by 2 adorable brothers, Tristan and Dorian. I had so many good moments laughing that it made me think my trip had actually already started. It gave me hope that I wouldn't be alone on this trip around the world. It gave me hope that I would find people like them, who would treat me like a sister. Playing in the street without weighing too much, the challenge. My seagull guitar was beautiful, made a great sound, and I had even tracked down its owner by hitchhiking years after buying it from a thief without knowing it. But it had one flaw. It was made for an adult body, and I'm 1.59 meters. So I had to find another one. I'd heard that there were cheap mini guitars, so I bought one, but I wasn't really convinced after all. Luckily, a music shop agreed to exchange it for a travel takamine from the Takamine series. Yeah, mini, like me. When I first played in the street with my new guitar, for once I felt good. It was comfortable. Everything made sense. The seagull guitar was really too big for me. I met a very special person named Jim, a true music lover. He emanates such a beautiful energy of life when he plays and sings. I was struck by his generosity. When we didn't know each other yet, he responded to a Facebook post on a public group asking for advice on battery-powered gear as I was looking for an amp and a looper. He came over after work one evening and dropped off everything he had so I could test his equipment. Anyway, Jim is really a sweet person, and besides, he was looking for a singer for a concert. Finding a keyboard was a real pain in the ass. Obviously, I couldn't take my Yamaha P45 around the world. It weighs 13 kilos. So I spent hours, days, weeks looking for a synth or a digital piano that I could take with me. I once got told by someone who worked in a music store in Paris that I would never find a light keyboard with a heavy touch, which is basically a good touch that mimics real pianos, like I had on my P45. After spending 2 hours in a big music store trying out every single keyboard, I bought the Roland Go keys for its weight, the fact that it was battery operated and had a fair amount of sounds. But when I plugged it into my amp, the sound was just horrible. I wasn't comfortable with the touch and I regretted my P45. I decided to resell it and I started to think about an idea that had been trotting in my head for a long time. To buy a MIDI keyboard, a controller, with an iPad that would generate the sound through a software. That way, I wouldn't have to rack my brains to find a keyboard with the sound I wanted. And so much the better because I couldn't find it. After days of research, I found the Arturia keyboard with 61 keys. I found this exact keyboard. I became friends with his salesman, Tristan, who was afraid to perform in the streets. But after the street session where I invited him to play a song or two, he gave it a go, and today he plays almost every day. I bought a refurbished iPad and the charger didn't work, so I sent the iPad back and I ordered another one. And I was scared because I kept telling myself that I didn't even know if this was going to work. I wanted to plug the MIDI keyboard into the iPad with GarageBand and output the sound with an adapter to my amp. Felt risky. But one evening, on the magnificent terrace of my friends Florian and Charlene, the keyboard lit up. It was magical. Then I had a feeling of defeat. I couldn't use GarageBand too much. I found the tutorials not so good when I usually learn everything on YouTube. I started to procrastinate, to be afraid of being bad. So I put that aside. At this point, I still had enough stuff to play in the street with my new guitar, so I gave it a go. And it was so cool. It really motivated me to go around the world. At that incredible evening at Montpellier's Central Square. Marc, the man who made me go from this to this. This is Marc. He is a creative, sparkling, generous luthier. I don't gamble because I keep my chance to find people like Marc. I posted on a site that I never use, that nobody knows, to find a good DIY person to help me improve a kind of trolley. And I found Marc, the guy who suggested to use a bike trailer. Obviously, before I found this trailer, I sent 108 messages on this website with crazy stats. Only 2% agreed to mail it. I started arguing with people who were too lazy to wrap it up and carry the package somewhere. And then finally, after buying a cheap but light dog bike trailer, returning that same trailer, cheap because it was light, a guy named Ben finally agreed to sell me his tool bike trailer. It was a hell of a success. It was the 15th of August. A month had gone by since I started looking for something to transport my gear. A month spent arguing with people who didn't want to take off 3 wheels. Gosh. And thanks to Marc, I'm not going to go crazy pulling this. I'm going to push a sports pushchair type trailer. I will find a name for it actually. Maybe something like Marco. He helped me put everything together perfectly. Yeah, it wasn't easy. People that make you regret leaving. I met a lot of wonderful people. Voilà. The Placard Gang.
C'était une partie en 2 points.
Krika. Eva et Martin. Tania. Alexandre. Pierrick. Béranger. The Club Med team. And then I had the support of my good old friends. Like Clémence, Laïs, Caroline, Anas. Back to the nest. I went to visit my mother, my adorable sisters, my wonderful brother, my nieces. And what a joy to be able to hug my grandmother, whom I hadn't seen in years. Together we practiced yoga, picked blackberries, celebrated birthdays. And then I went to say goodbye to my dad and Lumi, two beautiful souls. We spent some spiritually elevated time. I burned old things that belonged to my past. I cried, I let go. Lumi did some energy healing work on me because my back was hurting a lot, and the pain slowly dissipated. We drew cards from oracles, which gave me strength to go traveling the world. Lumi gave me a protective necklace representing an angel, which she wore around her neck. I felt ready. I felt strong. And that strength is neither a lack of vulnerability nor a way to rush forward without thinking. My strength is, on the contrary, the acceptance of my vulnerability and the certainty that our emotions make us all so beautiful. I believe in expression and mutual support. This strength is the conviction that we are never alone. That strength is also the belief that I will be helped and that I will help too, that this trip will all be about human sharing. I'm going out there to see a splendid planet on which I was born, but also, and above all, to meet beautiful human beings. I have faith in the light that dwells in each of us, and in our ability to overcome obstacles and choose light before darkness. If I'm leaving today, it's as much to evolve, to mature, to discover the pages of a new chapter, as to share, to feel alive, and to give. It is to feel life flow through me and remind me of my love of humanity. I'm hungry for life. I'm hungry for making life a beautiful thing. Guys, this is it. I'm leaving.
Trop bien! Merci. C'est trop désolé.
Ouais, j'ai soif de vie.
J'ai soif de vie. Les yeux bandés, je saute dans le vide. J'ai soif de vie. Les yeux bandés, je saute dans le vide. J'ai soif de vie.